Hi, aloha, and welcome to the That's Not Normal podcast. My name is Jennifer O'Neill.
And I'm Michelle Schneider, giving you a friendly reminder that if you like today's topic, please give the video a like and subscribe if you haven't already.
Yes, that's always helpful, and we love that. We wanted to talk about another topic. We actually got on the subject after we got off another podcast, and we thought, well, you know what? This is a good one. We should just continue on. So the topic would be body intelligence. We
Yes.
wanted to talk about that. So I'm going to just let you lead in with some of your questions.
Yeah, I'll explain it the best I can because I sometimes I have like really weird thoughts and I just don't know if I'm saying things right. So feel free to correct me or jump in if I'm
Okay.
saying anything that's too weird or
That's
too
not
not
normal?
normal.
That's just yeah, like, not normal? Okay.
Okay, so thinking of body intelligence, we know that we have a soul, and our soul has an imprint of every single lifetime that we have existed in.
Right.
And the reason I bring this up is because I feel like multiple times I've experienced things in my physical body that belong to another incarnation.
Mhm.
And I can jump in and I'll give an example of
Yes, go
a
ahead.
quick well, couple I have a couple examples. So, one would be there would be this period of time, and it hasn't happened in a long time. I would be in my car, I'd be driving, and all of a sudden my finger would go numb, and I would start having panic thoughts that I
Mhm.
had lost my ring. "Oh my god, where's my ring?" The thing is, I don't wear rings. I've never really wore rings in my entire life. I except for a brief couple years, but but I have always had this fear that I would lose a ring. So that I just typically don't wear them. And so with my finger going numb, I was like, this is super not normal. This is definitely not connected to this lifetime. It's not normal to have those thoughts. Another example of having a physical reaction of feeling super nauseous when I'm around people or if they're giving me lies and being deceitful,
Mhm.
where that also I feel like stems from another lifetime. So, thinking about the soul and like the individual cells of our physical body,
Right.
like does I know how like does the cells also, is your soul in every single cell of your body? Like, how does that
Yeah,
work?
absolutely 100%. It's not just in every cell of your body, and I think it helps if you kinda reframe your perspective a little bit, where your soul is a frequency. Okay. So imagine it like a sound or a wave. Your soul is a frequency constantly emitting and shifting and changing its frequency. Now, this frequency holds an insane amount of information. So the frequency is where that is stored. So that would be similar to like a computer hard drive, as if you take your computer hard drive with you to every place that you go. You've stored all your photos in there, you've stored conversations, text messages. It's on this computer hard drive, and you take it with every single lifetime it moves with you. And it is with you and stored in the spirit realm because it is your hard drive. It's who you are, it's every experience that you've had, all of the things. When you are born with a physical body, you are plugging the hard drive into the computer you're using at that moment in time, which would be the physical body. The physical body needs to draw information from that frequency. So it pulls in information from the frequency of other lifetimes, and it also pulls in a live frequency, which is what you're experiencing at this moment in time. That live frequency then shifts and changes and sends different information and new information to the cells that are created from that frequency. And then those cells go to different body parts and create the organs within the body, and it's the instruction manual on how to basically run the car or the body. Okay. So that is directed by your consciousness.
Okay.
So you direct your frequency with your consciousness, your emotional state, This is then what dictates what's stored within the frequency. If you have some trauma things happen, like, oh, I've lost a ring, and it wasn't even in this lifetime, those can become a larger focus in your frequency if you don't resolve them within that lifetime. So they can become a trauma point essentially that
Yeah,
you
because my
then carry into this lifetime.
my question would be why? Because it seems like, not significant, obviously, or I'm not either seeing the lesson of, like, why would I feel those sensations in my hand, in this lifetime? Like, is there a point to that? And to relate it to other people too, think about just having a fear of heights, but nothing has
Mhm.
ever bad happened to you, but you're just afraid of heights for some reason.
Well, I mean, and essentially, our job is to iron out all of our negative frequencies and all of our traumas. So, I mean, that's clearing up our frequency. We're supposed to be cleaning it up all the time. And when we have a perspective or a consciousness aspect to ourselves that is not a clean frequency, it's more of a traumatic experience and memory, we have to clean that up at some point in time. It doesn't matter if you're in that lifetime, this lifetime, or your next lifetime. It's going to have to be cleared up somehow. So you need to balance that frequency, let the low frequency emotions and memories then relax, and then they'll dissipate. If you don't address those things, they float to the surface and kind of scream at you until they are actually addressed. So you have to adjust your consciousness, your perspective. You have to reframe things to gain balance there. And once you gain balance there, meaning you remove the emotional charge from it, which is a negative charge, and you remove that, and you maybe come to a neutral perspective or something. For instance, I know this stems from another lifetime, like the ring thing.
Yeah.
Most people can reframe and lessen the emotional charge of it by just allowing their brain to compartmentalize, because that's where we run into another problem. Our brain wants to compartmentalize everything. That's what it's for. It's a database. It stores information and it wants to have a file folder for everything. It wants to be able to put this experience in this memory here, this experience in this memory here, etc.
But my
Which
file
can
folders are blending.
yes. So when you have a merge of your file folders, when you have something that leaks through, it's typically triggered, interestingly enough, by age, usually.
Hmm.
So, for instance, if you lost a ring when you were 17 or 20 in another lifetime,
Well, I wanna add this too real quick because I had gotten, another psychic's opinion on it, and they said that my finger had been chopped off, and, like, the ring was so valuable, it meant everything to me, and I would have rather have lost my finger. I didn't care about my finger. It was the ring that was so devastating, which I was like, "Well, geez, it's just a ring,"
yeah,
like
well, it's just a ring in this lifetime.
Yeah.
But that, so we need to again resolve that situation. And if it's seeping in from another lifetime, like I was telling you, it's usually triggered by a time frame or an event. So for instance, I also had a friend that was, I don't remember how old she was, I think in her 30s at the time. And she called me one day and she's like, I keep, like, every time my husband leaves, I go into a panic because I feel like something's going to happen to him. And I'm like, I could see it very clearly. I'm like, this is a past life situation. This isn't a current situation. And she had just started having that at a very specific age. It wasn't something that they'd been married for a while at this point, like 10 years or something. And it didn't come up until she hit a certain age. And when I looked further into it, that was the age that was very traumatic with another situation that was very similar. So when she gave that information to her brain, when she received the information, the first thing that typically happens when it is correct information is your entire being will have an aha moment. Oh, yes, that feels right to me. Like right in the chest center, you'll be like, yep, that definitely feels like it fits. It's almost like that puzzle piece just clicks. And when you get that clicking feeling, when you get that aha, yes, that makes sense to me, then the brain is on board immediately and then compartmentalizes it as another lifetime, which then removes the emotional charge, which allows that to then dissipate, if that makes sense. So we do have an ability to work with those situations, but body intelligence is huge because it is storing and dictated by the frequency that was within your soul, but also you navigate your frequency within the emotional aspects of how you're navigating life. Why? Because the emotional aspects will amplify or negatively charge an experience. That's where we enhance a frequency and really fill it with information, is via our emotional state. And so that is filled with information. If you think about every emotion that you've ever had, there's a storyline that's attached to it. There's images that are attached to it. There's information that's attached to it, whether you made it up yourself or it was just an observation. There's a lot that is attached to it, right? So there's a lot of story, a lot of experience that is attached to every single emotion, whether it be positive or negative. And then that becomes part of our overall frequency, but it also adjusts the frequency within the body, and it's a live transmission, so it's happening at that very moment in time. That's why I say we cause ourselves the worst problems, because if we're not allowing our frequency to be naturally worry free or fear free, just typically because, and I tell people this a lot, when they're worried about something and fearful about something, if you ask them, don't think about the past, don't think about the future, but at this very moment in time, is everything okay? Like, does things feel okay? Like right now, right this second, this very 5 minutes, does it feel okay? If you ask yourself if you're worried or fearful about something, and you ask yourself that right now, whether you're driving in your car, you're chilling wherever at home, most likely your environment is feeling pretty good right now, especially because you're listening to podcasts, you're not like involved in a huge argument or whatever. So your environment at that moment in time is really pretty good, which then it that feeds into your life frequency. If we could stay there more, and that's where that mindfulness aspect comes in.
Being present. Yeah.
Yes, because if you're paying close attention to what's happening at this moment in time, everything's pretty good. Once we start navigating backwards or forwards, that's where we just throw like all kinds of weapons in there that are going to cause our worry and fear to amplify. So, body intelligence, as far as health and healing goes, it naturally knows what to do. It's built that way. And I think that that is a very good point that you had. It is literally built that way. It is meant to heal. It is the most magical, weirdest, craziest, beautiful thing that has ever been invented, is our body and the way that it can heal itself. It knows where to send what at what point in time to get rid of toxic cells, to stop bleeding, to do all the things. But when we're directing it from a very negative emotional state, that's where we go off the rails. That's where we start feeding it information that is toxic, feeding it information that is not good. When that frequency starts to feel negative, when our emotional state starts to be filled up with fear and worry and concern, it's that's what every cell of the body is filled with, and it behaves differently.
Okay, I have a question. Okay, so are you saying that if our frequency is a little bit on the lower side, that is also contributing to making the file folders blend through a little bit, like pulling some of those
Yeah,
from?
especially if you're navigating a negative experience from another lifetime and then a negative uh, experience in this lifetime. Meaning, if your frequency was on the lower side, I'm feeling sad or worried about something, you will then mirror other aspects of other lifetimes that can match that. Sometimes, though, the other lifetimes, those experiences are so strong, like I said, that they'll just come with age regardless. Just
Okay.
like out of nowhere, you may have to navigate and reframe that because you might have been just feeling really happy and then out
Yeah,
of
because
nowhere.
the finger thing was weird, and it was for
Mhm.
whatever reason, it was only when I would get in my car and drive, like, and it would be, like, as I was leaving my house, which I thought was really strange because it never happened anywhere else, and I was like, "This is the weirdest thing, and I don't understand it."
Well, and that's it. You don't need to, as long as you realize that this clearly doesn't apply to this lifetime. So
Yeah,
that's how you can kind of navigate it. Number one, does it apply to this lifetime? Clearly, you had not had an experience that mimicked that,
yeah,
which means it's the probability of it applying to another lifetime is extremely high. And then once you go, oh, okay, that would make sense, the brain puts it in the past life category, file folder, and now we can typically move on from that. We might have to remember that a few times, but then we can typically move on. There's been some times where I've had to do some past life regressions on people that are having extreme emotional reactions with people or children, like being fearful of losing the loved one, or I would say having such a emotional tie to somebody that you really don't want to pursue in this lifetime. It's not healthy, it's toxic, whatever. Then we have to kind of navigate that situation and allow you to be able to see where that connection stems from, and then be able to see and experience kind of what that looked like. And that can help your brain go, oh, that deep love that I have for what is seemingly a toxic situation was actually a different type of love in another lifetime. It wasn't toxic then, and now it is. So that clearly is not going to work. It helps you to detach from um, a memory of another lifetime. And in those instances, when we're dealing with soulmates and soul relationships, the part that messes people up is you can have super strong feelings of love and that expansive consciousness, coming from the heart center with people you've had other lifetimes with, that you're like, this doesn't make any sense. Number one, we've not hardly known each other, or we just met. There's no rationalization to why these feelings are this strong. And or two, they get into it deeper and they're like, I can't seem to break away from this, but I know this isn't healthy for me. So, where you can carry negative emotions over, you can also carry positive ones that might fit really well or may not. You can have relationships where they're like, "Oh, yes, this is like I feel this way deeper than this lifetime," and they might be positive positive. You can also visit places or watch movies that you're just like, oh my God, this show makes me feel amazing. Like, I always bring up like Vikings or things like that because, like, for some weird reason, I clearly had some weird Viking past lifetime because, like, and those people are just like mean. I know,
I was say I
but
don't share that
you
passion,
do not
but
share that, but I do have this. There's some lifetime that I lived during some type of similar experience.
I was like,
It was
I'm more
really good.
drawn to the Guardians of the Galaxy type
Yes.
of, futuristic, off
Oh no, don't get me wrong. Like any things like Star Wars and Thor and all that. I've absolutely had many, many positive lifetimes in outer worlds, absolutely. I've known that since I was very, very little.
And
Uh,
so I was gonna say, and to piggyback off of like what you were saying, not only just like the negative emotions coming through, but with our body intelligence would say that we had a lot of, lifetimes where we were healers or,
mhm.
had super
Yes,
strong psychic abilities or
yes.
telepathy. Like we could pull those through access those
Absolutely.
too.
Yeah, gifts and skills. You can absolutely pull in passions, gifts, and skills. There's typically passions, gifts, and skills that you will have during this lifetime that will stem back in other lifetimes. You carry some of the same ones through every lifetime. They're built within your soul. They will go from lifetime to lifetime. How you navigate those might be different. So, for instance, a healer in another lifetime that might work with apothecary stuff in another lifetime. Maybe they become an actual regular doctor in this lifetime and maybe not an herbologist. Like, it doesn't matter how it turns out, but you may have a different road in this lifetime than you did in other lifetimes. You might go more traditional medicine, or you might be vice versa. Maybe in another lifetime, you're more of a traditional doctor, and then you came in and did more natural stuff. So those aspects are interchangeable, but however, the theme is very similar, like healer theme,
Yeah.
or things like that. Might have an entertainer theme, might have a builder theme, you might have um, kind of a nature theme. Like a lot of those themes can carry on with you through each one. But yes, the body, as far as the body intelligence, it retains all this information, it gets it through the frequency, it is constantly fed info, and the way that it operates is based on the frequency, and you're the navigator of the frequency. The biggest thing you're going to want to pay attention to is your emotional state, because that is going to dictate your frequency. So that's again why you do not want to be living in fear or worry, and you want to negate negative emotions as best you can, because you don't want negative emotions steering your ship. You just do not. That's not going to work out well in any way, shape, or form. You want the most positive emotions working with the body, and it is going to shift based upon that. Let's reframe that a little bit, though. I know that you're not going to be in a positive state all the time. That's not the point. It's kind of like you shouldn't have to eat entirely healthy like 24/7. But your goal should always be exercise more than you're not, eat better more than you're eating crappy, be happier more than you're being negative. It's to
Yeah.
tip the scale into healthy, positive, not toxic, moving energy, you know,
Yeah.
pursuing a passion, developing a skill, loving more. Like all the things should be over 50% good and in a healthy mindset and a healthy place. And the other side should be less. Anything negative, anything toxic, anything unhealthy should be on the less end.
Yeah.
That's my rule of thumb for everybody.
Yeah.
So does that make sense?
It makes sense.
Okay. So did I cover all your questions with emotional or the body intelligence?
I think so. Yeah, I was just trying to wrap my brain around it all because it's like, you think of your soul and you're like, wait, but wait, the body, it feels like it has its own intelligence that's just beyond this lifetime.
It
So,
absolutely has its own intelligence, and that's one of the coolest things that I've ever learned doing any of the work that I've ever done, doing any of the energetic analysis stuff I do, working with clients on the body mapping, the spiritual health mapping, working with them in the mentorship programs, doing psychic readings, any of the things. One of the coolest things that I've ever learned was the vast ability and capability that your physical body has to heal itself. We are the problem.
yeah, I think we totally underestimate. And I don't think that we were just taught. I just feel like there's so much information that we're just not taught here. Um that doesn't
Well,
do us any good.
interestingly enough, it's taught a lot more in Eastern medicine. It's
Yeah.
well versed from 2 to 5,000 years back that that's how the body and the system work. That's more of a Western medicine situation where we divide and conquer. We divide, we separate. Everything wants to be separated and compartmentalized in our culture. We want to pull everything apart and have all the parts individually working, which, if you think about it, like, I mean, you can't pull anything apart and have it working cohesively together. What would happen if you pulled a car engine apart and said, well, these are all great parts and the battery's good and the spark plugs are amazing and the carburetor's awesome? Like, but it's not going to do anything. It's all picked apart and pulled apart. So you can fix any aspect of it, but as long as it's a part, it's not going to work. Like, I just don't know how we got to this space, because we are meant to be part of nature. Like, our physical body, our spiritual body is meant to run and be aligned with nature and nature cycles. This is how it's been for thousands and thousands of years, where our our body, our spiritual energy, it changes with full moons, with new moons, with tides, with astrological shifts, with nature. Some people, if they do not ever see nature, they don't align with the nature's rhythm. So if you're indoors all the time, your alignment with nature is off.
Yeah.
And if you are not indoors all the time and you have some kind of relationship with nature, you start to have a rhythm with nature. That's why that so many cultures have rhythms with the seasons, and they have rhythms with the moon cycles, whether it comes to um, sicknesses, whether it comes to um, women's hormones, whether it comes to behaviors. It's all a rhythmatic cycle. And that is just not something that we're taught about.
Yeah.
We're taught that things break and they break down. And I mean, really, that's just a
I know, because I
capitalist
think we just
culture.
disregard everything and we just think this is just some meat suit that's gonna, like, break down eventually, and it's just like, if we looked at it a different perspective, if we I really hope that, society will turn the corner on this and kind of move away from this, like, Western medical view of things and start to really go into a new direction.
And go down the funnel of body intelligence and just how that works. Me too, but I also think that a lot more people are more in tune with that than they've ever been.
Yeah.
So I believe that the knowledge is there, it's expanding, the curiosity is there. I think that people are turning a corner towards wanting to understand body intelligence, wanting to understand how the body heals itself, wanting to understand where are they causing themselves problems, how do they navigate that, what do they change in their life. And to tell you the truth, the younger generation, I've talked about this before, but like, everybody hacks on the millennials and stuff. They're coming out entirely differently. They're going to be living their life indifferently. I think that by the time they get to my age and older, their health is going to be entirely different. And then we have the generation after that. I don't even know what you call these people anymore. Gen Z's, Gen X. I don't
Well,
know.
there's alpha and then there's betas.
Okay, well, wherever we're going from there. And then you have the little, all the small children. They are uh, bucking the concept of what we've been taught for many, many years. And they are aligning with another concept that makes all the older generation go, they're just lazy. They're just lazy and they don't know anything. That you work hard and you buy a house and you do this and you do that and you don't rent and you don't travel and you don't live minimalistically. They just cannot wrap their head around it. When that generation has it right, the other generation should just zip it and take care of their health because they're struggling.
Yeah.
And that is a direct effect of the different perspectives and the different mindsets. And the younger generation is just like, you guys are idiots. Like, I don't know what you're doing right now. But we're not doing that. I can tell you that. That doesn't look fun at all. I'm not heading that direction. And I love that they're coming into the world and they're standing up for themselves and wanting a different way. And they're more spiritually connected than I've ever seen since I've been doing psychic work. It's amazing. It's beautiful. It's going to change the whole landscape.
I think it needs to be changed, and we're I just think we're at this point in the world where it's like change is needed, and yeah, it's gonna be uncomfortable probably, but, we
It
need it.
is. And that's why we have a whole different generation of souls moving in to shift that. So,
Yeah.
all right. Well, hopefully you enjoyed this podcast that we just did on spur of the moment. So there you go.
But if you
Um,
have questions, please leave those in the comments because we'd love to hear those.
yes. And until next time, have the most amazing day. Aloha. Bye.
Bye.